Hello, welcome to the video. In this section, we're going to be looking at section 9.3, where we're going to be solving quadratic equations using square roots. So I'm going, um, a lot of times here, especially in this particular chapter, because everything that we're going to be looking at is different ways that we can find the x-intercept of our quadratic. So to be clear, so the general equation was y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, so the the first thing that we looked at in 9.2 was we were able to determine what the x-intercepts were by looking at the graph. And we were able to determine what those coordinates were by factoring. So we were able to factor it using zero product property and then getting our result. All right. Today, today we're going to look at another method of determining the x-intercepts, and that's square roots. Now, factoring, it's, you know, that method works as long as you have a trinomial that you can factor. When you look at square roots, there's stipulations here as well. The only way you can use square roots is if b equals 0. So if you notice here, you have ax squared plus c. B equals 0, which allows us to use square roots to find the x-intercepts. So how we do that, first thing you're going to do is you are going to isolate your square. All right, it could be just your x is being squared, or it may be a quantity squared, whatever that might be. Once you've done that, you are going to take the square root of both sides. Okay. The, the thing is this, if d is a positive number, if it's greater than 0, you are going to get two answers. You're going to get two x-intercepts. And in this case, it's going to be plus or minus whatever the square root of d is resulted as. All right. If you have d is 0, again, taking the square root of that, you're just getting one answer, and that's x is going to be 0. So in this particular instance, your graph would be 0, comma 0 as your x-intercept. In this case, again, when you get one solution, it's also your vertex. If d is a negative number, which is less than 0, and you try to take the square root of that, if you ever try to put the square root of that in your calculator, it says like syntax error or domain error or some kind of error code, which means is there's no real solutions, which means there's no x-intercepts. Okay. So here they're asking us to solve using square roots. So you got to isolate this, essentially this x squared. So you're going to add 27. So it's going to be 3x squared is equal to 27. Divide by 3. X squared equals, what, 9? Take the square root of both sides to get x is now going to be equal to, since 9 is positive, it's going to be plus or minus 3. So if you were to use this equation, y equals 3x squared minus 27, you would get an x-intercept of 3 comma 0 and negative 3 comma 0. If you looked at b, it looks like, oh, I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So now I got x squared is equal to 0. Take the square root of that, so that means x equals 0. For c, subtracting 11 from both sides. So now I got negative 5. X squared is equal to, what, 5? Taking, dividing -5 to both sides, so now I got x squared equals -1. If I try to take the square root of that, I cannot take the square root of -1, so I have no solution, or I have no x intercepts. Now, for this particular one, it is a quantity squared. So essentially, this one's already isolated. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x minus 1 quantity squared is just going to be x minus 1. It's going to be equal to the square root of 25. Since 25 is positive, it'll be plus or minus 5. All right, because I have the plus or minus 5 and I don't have x equaling something right away, I now have to set this up as two separate equations. I'm going to write in x minus 1 is equal to positive 5 and x minus 1 is equal to negative 5. And then I can solve these two equations separately. So I add 1 to both sides here, x equals 6. Add 1 to both sides here, x equals -4. So my x-intercepts for here would be 6 comma 0, and the other x-intercept would be -4 comma 0. So again, I would encourage you to give these a try. They're very similar to the um, examples that I previously made. If you do have additional questions, please leave a comment, and I'm more than happy to uh, do those problems. Here it says 4x squared minus 13 is equal to 15 using square roots. Round the solution to the nearest hundredth, so that's one decimal place. So what this probably is a situation where we're going to get some kind of decimal in our result, which is fine because not every x-intercept is going to come out as a nice clean integer. All right, sometimes they're going to come out as decimals. And so for this one, again, we're going to isolate the x squared. So I'm going to add 13 to both sides. So I'm left with 4x squared is equal to 15 plus 13, which is what, 28. Divided by 4, x squared is equal to 7. Then I take the square root of this. So square root of 7 looks like x is going to be equal to about plus or minus 2.6. Hundredth, that's two. I'm sorry, hundredths is two decimal places, so it'd be what, 6.5. So my two x-intercepts would be positive 2.65 comma 0 and negative 2.65 comma 0. And that is being able to solve quadratic equations using square roots. I hope this helps. Until next time.